When I was about 15 years old, so 20 years ago, I was sitting in class. I don't remember what class it was, but I was sitting in class next to a girl, and she was asking about basically why I looked the way I did. I explained to her that my father was African American and my mother was German. They met, had me. And there was a few more questions in there. I don't really remember what it was, but then she asked me if my father used to be a slave. And that kind of struck me as odd, because who doesn't know when slavery ended, right? Like, why would someone be asking that? And I told her that my father was born in 1960, and she didn't fix her question or say anything else. And I told her, well, slavery ended long before that. My grandmother was not a slave either. And she said, And then she asked where my parents were, where my father was from, like originally. I said Alabama. And she asked, if the slaves didn't like it, why didn't they just leave? And again, I was just stunned into silence, as I'm sure some people, are just familiar with the whole, you have the questions and you have no idea how to even react. That's one of the biggest memories I have from high school. I went to two high schools, but the first one, it was mostly white. I think it was about 97% white. And that was one of the first times I really thought about the education system and thought to myself, something is wrong. We are not doing something right here. I'd always wanted to become a teacher, like since 5. I remember playing with my stuffed animals and I would teach them. And I'd always wanted to teach math. I think I decided about middle school that I wanted to teach math. But I never really looked at the education system as being problematic until that point. That's like the first real memory I have of something that stuck with me, like racially, when I was younger. That really stood out, I should say. There were other instances, of course, but that is like a major one that stuck with me in terms of like how our education system is failing us. And I don't remember what else transpired during that conversation, but I just, still to this day, I'm like, how could you even ask those questions? Fast forward, I became a teacher, taught in the classroom, and I ended up teaching at a Title I school for a couple of years, and the majority of the students were African American or Latino. And I ended up teaching a 3rd, 4th grade classroom my first year. And when teaching like social studies, history, I realized that there was not much representation of the people in the classroom. So you show George Washington and Thomas Jefferson and Benjamin Franklin and all these people, and no one looks like anyone in the room. And I had a big problem with that. And obviously I still do now. But once I started teaching the curriculum, I realized that I don't want my children having that same experience in the classroom. I don't want them only learning one side of history, because not only are you not learning anything about your people, you are subconsciously taking in these notions, or can't think of the right word, but just feelings of inferiority, because if none of your people did anything great, like how can you be great too, basically. I can't think of another way to explain that, but once I had my first son, I said I absolutely want to homeschool, because I want to make sure that he is being uplifted both in his knowledge of history and just knowing that he can be and do whatever he wants to do, just like the many people that have come before. But I also, and I mean, you could do this with students who are not homeschooled. Of course, you can have your children go to the school all day, every day, and still come home and reinstill those, or reinforce, not reinforce, but instill those Black history things. You can definitely do that. So that's not a negative thing to people who send their children to school full time, not at all. But you have to do it from home until our education system is fixed. So that's one of the biggest things, homeschooling. I want to make sure that they understand history accurately, not just the story told by the people who won. And it wasn't until I was in college and really started looking into Black history that I found out there was more to Malcolm X and Martin Luther King and the negative views of the Black Panther Party. I never even knew that the Black Panther Party did a free breakfast program and was anything but negative. Like, that's not fair that we teach children in school those three things, basically. And then, of course, Malcolm X is negative, Black Panther Party is negative, but they really did good stuff for the community. And I feel like over the past few weeks, I keep seeing Martin Luther King quotes and how rioting is evil, basically, and peace, you know, and it's like, well, Martin Luther King tried the peaceful protesting, and look where that ended him up, you know, so even that wasn't good enough. But again, I just think it's really, really important to understand the full history of America, of the world. You know, why are the major exports of Africa gold, oil, diamonds, and they're not the richest country in the world, or the richest continent in the world, excuse me. And I mean, that's another point. Like, I grew up for the longest time thinking that Africa was like a country and not an entire continent made up of 54 countries. But I think this time has been difficult for me living in Germany, because I feel like I can't really contribute besides financially to some movements back home in America. But I see so much stuff online, and I've kind of withdrawn a little bit, but I did want to come on and just share a quick video on basically, this is why I'm homeschooling. The comments I'm seeing online, the misinformation, the negativity, it's reinforcing why I want to homeschool. I want my children to get an education that is not one-sided. And I also encourage you, as you homeschool and educate your children for the future, look into your resources. You know, what history are you presenting? Is it basically what they're getting in the school? Is it the same thing at home? And this is for my Black homeschool friends, my white homeschool friends, my Native American homeschool friends, anyone. What resources are you using to educate your children to make better, more informed decisions in your future? It shouldn't be an exact mirror of the school systems in America. You should have representation from all cultures, try to get different countries, so your children grow up feeling like that is the norm. The norm is the diversity. It is not the one-sided America is the greatest, because it's not. So I just wanted to come on real quick and just share some thoughts that I've been having lately. I didn't really organize my thoughts and how I was going to make this video, but I just wanted to say something and share with my YouTube friends, my followers, the people who I engage with regularly. I appreciate you listening, and I'll see you in another video.